So we're going to dive in, and I'll go ahead and share my screen. But the topic of today, and I mentioned it, is somatic symphony, navigating trauma with the full octave relational model. And it's like, oh my gosh. Well, I like this part, the somatic symphony, right? Because that's a beautiful kind of, at least, way of thinking. Like, how does my body resonate with yours right now? What kind of music is happening? What notes are stuck? What notes want to come next, right? And then this whole thing here, the full octave relational model, my students have been on me to kind of put out more of my stuff. But part of me is like, do we really need another model? And my hope is, my hope is it's a helpful framework to at least think about your work with people or your work with yourself. And I don't, a lot of it is just a reorganization of good work that's come before and a way of thinking about things. So that's, anyways, but it has this fancy schmancy name, the full octave, which is its own version of kind of a musical concept. And I call it the octave because there's 8 different notes that people typically can play if their instrument is flowing. And the idea is we want them to be able to play their full octave in connection and in relationship with others. Okay, so that's the gist of that fancy schmancy kind of thing. Okay, and that's me, and I run a trauma program over at Somatic. Okay, let's see. Okay, all right. I'll do this next slide really quick, especially because some of you know me, some of you don't, but oh, translation. Wow, that's amazing. I speak English. And then, so that's cool that Zoom has that. I'm being translated. It's like, I don't know, the Babel fish. It's kind of life, the meaning of the universe and everything, something like that. So anyway, so I'm being translated right now into different languages, which is cool. Zoom is amazing that way. So about me, I used to be super intellectual and academic, Princeton, Oxford, a place called the Santa Fe Institute. I was really disembodied and separate from my deeper knowing, from my own inner melody, so to speak. If I was stuck in a certain note, like it was all mental, I could play the mental note very well, but it was a very singular note. And I couldn't feel, like the bass of like the bass, the B-A-S-E and the B-A-S-S, like the deeper levels of my being, right? And so I went on a walkabout, a journey to try and discover myself, discover the other notes on my keyboard, right? In my melody that wanted to be played in this life. And I found my way to the Esalen Institute, and I discovered parts of myself, melodies inside, notes that I did not know were there, that wanted to sing out loud. And I'm ever and eternally grateful for the Esalen Institute. And then I integrated, then I found my melody, and I wanted to basically share that song with others, right? And I used to run a program in somatics at John F. Kennedy, and now I run the trauma certificate program at Somatopia. So that's a little bit of my life course. Let's see. I was named Albert after this guy, Albert Einstein, and I used to be a physics person, but us Alberts we're both kind of scientific and soulful, so maybe I live up to my namesake. Um, my dad wanted me to be a physicist, and I'm a kind of a physicist of the heart in some ways. But um, Albert Einstein, and just see if you can hear the words, but also let them resonate. And that's another beautiful musical metaphor. Let it resonate inside you as if it could actually potentially, if the words could actually be true. So Albert Einstein writes, we are slowed down sound and light waves. We, these people, these embodied things that we are slowed down sound and light waves. A walking bundle of frequencies tuned into the cosmos. We are slowed down sound and light waves. A walking bundle of frequencies tuned into the cosmos. We are souls dressed up in sacred biochemical garments. We are souls dressed up in sacred biochemical garments, and our bodies are the instruments. Our bodies are the instruments through which our souls play their music. Our bodies are the instruments through which our souls play their music. So just feeling maybe the resonance of that, almost as if you could feel your own inner vibration, the instrument that is you and the music that wants to be played. Yeah. Okay. And here's another scientist. If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Yeah. Okay. So there's a lot. And I've been kind of casually using some musical terms just as I've spoken. But I'm going to invite us to think about the question, and we'll open up chat in a bit. But what might the metaphor of music have to do with the healing process, right? Or even, and I've been throwing out some phrases borrowed from music that could relate to healing. But, as you think about those of you who maybe have a little sense of music and the healing process, what might some terms be that kind of cross over in terms of the world of music and the world of healing? So we'll go ahead and you can type that into the chat, and I'll just, the chat's now open. So yeah, or you can raise your hand, either is fine. Yeah. What terms from the world of music might also relate to the process of healing? Yeah, balance, right. Yeah, so let me just write some of this down. Balance, yeah, sometimes like there's a musical tone, it's like, that note is too loud, like there's too much kind of brass, or whatever it is. We need a little bit more kind of smoothing things out, right? We need balance, right? Synchronization, yeah, something feels out of sync, like we're trying to play this tune together, but it's not in sync, or not in rhythm, right? There's something like we're out of rhythm if we're kind of trying to do a duet, or I could be off my own internal rhythm, right? Like I feel like I'm off my rhythm. Like I don't know what happened. Maybe after a certain event, maybe even after a certain trauma, like it's been hard to find my rhythm again, right? I might have lost my very like inner harmony, right? Like there's a sense of disharmony, like within myself, if I've experienced some kind of thing that's been difficult, like it doesn't feel harmonious. And vibration, absolutely. There's We talk about people having a certain vibe, right? Or a vibration. Sometimes, like tuning into somebody else's vibe or vibration is really important part of connection. Synchronization, another vote for synchronization, harmony and integration. Yeah, good. Integration, absolutely. You know, there's an interesting thing about kind of musical pieces, like if you sing a tune and it doesn't complete, it doesn't resolve, or it doesn't integrate, there's like there's something called suspended chords, where it's just like, oh, happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday, dear Meredith, happy birthday to, and it's like, what? It's just hanging there. It's not resolved. It's not integrated. It's not completed. Right. So there's like, so yeah, totally. Okay. Crescendo. Yes, absolutely. Sometimes like there's an amplification, a build, right? Within healing, like there's this saying, it gets worse before it gets better. It gets more intense sometimes. Right. So there's like amplification and crescendo. Thank you. Right. Okay, absolutely. Harmony, again, progression, right? Yeah. So I kind of, that happy birthday thing was kind of like the progression that's supposed to lead eventually, typically to kind of integration. And there's intervals, right? Harmony, sometimes there's very classic intervals that occur, like the minor fifth. What's that song from? What's his name? That guy with that really low voice. Minor chord, a lower fifth, or whatever. Hallelujah. Anyways, there's certain like intervals, like a fifth or a triad, that are very classic sounds in music, that are also very classic moves in healing work, right? So somebody's talking about a sensation. Okay, that's one note, but I could layer on a certain interval, like using this musical metaphor. You're feeling that sensation. Okay. Is there a thought that goes with that? That's a certain like, okay, you're making an interval move, right? It's like, that's like a triad. Okay. Sensation to thought. Okay. There's a thought. Okay, is there an idea or a thought? Or is there an image? That's a different kind of interval. Like, does that sensation have an image that goes with it? So there's the thought interval. It's like a very classic. It's almost like, okay, that's like the fifth, or the going, okay, sensation to image is a third. I mean, those number, I don't know, like for those of you who are musical, like maybe that, but there's a certain kind of like classic sounds that make chords in a certain sense that go together, that also happen in a practitioner healer relationship, right? So you're looking at, so there's different kinds of intervals that are possible. We'll talk about those, okay, some of the options you have there. Okay. Decrescendo, when you're feeling a lower vibration. Absolutely. Absolutely. So there's a progression, there's integration. Typically after the integration, there is a little bit decrescendo. Yeah, we're resolving. It's like, okay, coming back down, right? A lower vibration. Yeah, different inner systems being in tune together. Absolutely. So that's kind of like being in tune, right? And that's a good word, in tune together. In clinical work and therapy and in coaching and practitioner work, there's that actual word, attunement. Attunement, right? So it's like, I am becoming in tune with you, right? On the same song sheet. Absolutely, right? Kind of in tune, on the same page, connected to each other, listening inside, right? I like that. Yeah. Part of being in tune is like listening to your own kind of attunement, right? Kind of listening inside, listening to your own instrument. Resonance. Thank you. Yes, resonance. Okay. That probably goes along with, I don't know, this notion of vibration, like being in attunement and in resonance. Like there's this thing that happens, and I'll just pause a little bit on this notion of resonance. Like if you take a tuning fork and you hit it, kind of it'll kind of start to vibrate. And if there's another tuning fork, this is just pure physics, that is attuned to the same frequency, even though you don't touch it, just if you hit one tuning fork, this other tuning fork will just naturally start resonating and vibrating, right? Okay. So if you, as a practitioner, support person, just human being who loves another person, is an open tuning fork to the other, when they send out their note, you will start to resonate, if your instrument is open, right? And that you'll be operating in attunement, right? You'll be in tune. You'll be at the same vibration, right? You'll be in resonance. And having somebody resonate with us can be one of the most deeply healing things, right? That there is. We'll talk more about that. Okay. Suspended chords, absolutely. Yeah, somebody knows a little bit of music. So a suspended chord is kind of like when I did that happy birthday to you thing and I didn't finish it, right? That's a suspended progression, but a suspended chord, some chords are like that, like a diminished fourth, or I don't know. I don't actually know music that, but there's certain chords that just want to move somewhere. It's like, oh, I don't want to stay on that kind of, it feels like it wants to resolve into something. And that's very much like something that's not completed, unprocessed trauma. Very good, Angela. Out of reach or isolated from the conductor. Yeah, totally. Bob Dylan. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Leonard Cohen, hallelujah. Absolutely. Okay. A secret chord that David used to please the Lord. I love that. I had no idea. Maybe all we need to do is to find that music and find that note. Just a quick aside. I think that musicians and singers, one of the reasons why they're revered so greatly is because many of them are actually healers. Like the music that they create is its own version of a healing thing. Okay. Zoe says flow. Yeah, flow, right? Is the music suck, or does it progress or flow? Like, does it move and flow into integration, kind of going up and down, right? Yeah. So yeah. Your new young therapist doesn't know what attunement is. Is it like co-regulation? It kind of is like co-regulation. Like attunement. It's like attunement is it, like my sense is like the we'll talk more about it, but it's like, do I feel like you are with me, right? In tune with my inner melody? Are you being with me, feeling resonant with my experience? Yeah, the tuning fork is a good example. Anything more concrete that you offer this new therapist? Well, I think what I would say is, and is this somebody who you're supervising, or is this somebody who is supporting you, Grace? I'm just kind of curious. If it's somebody who's supporting you and you're the client, attunement, you'll know when somebody's attuning to you. Like I know when somebody's attuning to me, when it's like, like there's a feeling of, you see me, you recognize me, you're with me, right? So that's how I know when somebody is attuning to me. But it's basically being with the person, sensing their inner world. Okay, all right. Dynamic descriptions, yeah, sensations, allegro, adagio. Yeah, you can totally see people kind of in those different states. Attenuation or reverb, right? Polyphonic. Okay, there's different voices. Totally. Oh, you're the client. Okay, thank you. Oh, great. Okay, good. So glad that's helpful. Okay. Yeah, it's really important to kind of have some a relationship with somebody who's a healer or supporter where you feel like there's attunement. Okay, great. All right. So we'll talk a little bit about the agenda for today, and we did some of this already. So let's. So we spoke. Yeah. Thanks, Kira, for manning the chat or personing the chat. Okay. So about me and about you. Just getting attuned. The power of metaphor and the sympathy. Sympathy. Wow. Well, that's another Freudian, but I think sympathy and symphony, maybe there's some kind of connection there too. The symphony within. The oopsie, I kind of lost my pen there. So yeah, the power of metaphor, the symphony, attunement, resonant people. You all kind of got this. There's some others. Losing one's groove, like people talk about getting their groove back, right? The melody of the soul, right? Yeah. So we're going to talk about, one of the first things we're going to talk about is this notion of limbic resonance, right? It's the tuning fork metaphor. It's the what it feels like to be limbically known, because that's one of the essential things that happens in the healing process, right? Does somebody feel me at the limbic emotional kind of level? Okay, so we'll talk about that. We'll talk a little bit about this, what I call the standard model of trauma treatment, with the wind of tolerance, CYBAM, and the 5 core organizers. Just out of curiosity, how many of you are familiar with, I guess, what I'm calling the standard model of trauma treatment using CYBAM and the wind of tolerance? Raise your hand if you would. Okay, so Meredith is. Okay, Howard is. Who is this kind of new to? Oh, Laura is. Okay, who's it new to? Okay. Okay, so there's people who it's new to. Leah, I saw. Okay. So we will go over that hopefully in a helpful way, and we'll just try and cover it, expeditiously. But to get to what's new, sometimes you need to cover what is already known. So we'll do that. Okay. So we'll cover the standard model, right? The wind of tolerance, CYBAM, the 3 boards model of trauma treatment. This is, I'll explain what that is. And then we'll get into what I'm calling the full octave relational model, which basically is we soft sciences types like these acronyms. It helps us feel super official, in my opinion. So there's an acronym, basically treaties expands CYBAM to another 3 notes. Okay, so that's the big cause for celebration in the full octave relational model, but I think it's useful. Okay, and then we'll talk about how to use that understanding in something called resourcing and in harmonizing, finding the right intervals. Okay, so that's our schedule for today. So first, let's go into limbic resonance. Limbic resonance. Okay. So limbic resonance. Limbic resonance is a symphony. There's that musical metaphor. Resonance is a symphony of mutual exchange and internal adaptation. So a symphony of mutual exchange. So here we are in resonance. There's maybe music happening in you, music happening in me, and it's connected somehow, right? And there's an internal adaptation that's occurring in that resonance, whereby 2 mammals become attuned to each other's inner states. Okay? So there's a shape or a song that's happening inside you, and it's moving and shifting. And as that shape turns or shifts, the shape inside me adapts and shifts and adjusts. So that's that kind of process of attunement and resonance. It's like when something shifts inside you, right? I can I can sense that there's something that starts to shift inside me. And it doesn't have to be we're playing the exact same note, right? It's just that, okay, there was a shift in you, okay, and I felt a certain other shift in me, right? And that can be kind of resonance, okay? And that's from his book, A General Theory of Love. And I think love is very much kind of linked to resonance, like, you're with me, you're resonating with me, I feel seen, known, maybe even loved, okay? So in order to heal, we must become limbically known, right? So what does that mean? It's like having somebody with a keen ear catch your melodic essence, like somebody hears my unsung melody and knows me, right? There's that phrase, attunement or mind sight, Dan Siegel's term. It's kind of, yeah, up there. There's also this notion of feeling felt. Okay. So I can feel that you might be feeling me. I have a sense that you're with me, you're feeling me, and I actually feel your feelingness of me, and I feel felt. And for me, the feeling of feeling felt is like, like there's a deep breath in frequently, there's a letting go, there's a sometimes, well, there's all sorts of things that can happen, but it's typically a very nice healing thing, and it's like sometimes it's like the resolving of the suspended cord, right? It's being not alone anymore. Okay. An example of this, this is a horse and a boy. So this is two mammals coming into attunement and resonance. So the horse says, sometimes the bravest thing to do is to say how you feel, said the horse. Sometimes the bravest thing to do is to say how you feel, said the horse. I'm frightened, said the boy. And you can just imagine that maybe there's a coming into resonance. I'm going to say the same words, but I'm going to reverse the sentences and just sense into that. Okay. And the process of coming into resonance, perhaps that might be happening. Okay. I'm frightened, said the boy. I'm frightened, said the boy. Sometimes the bravest thing to do is to say how you feel, said the horse. Yeah. Just notice, there's this process of these two sweet mammals maybe feeling alone with their frightened melodies, coming into resonance with each other, and maybe something healing happens. Okay. So how do you do this kind of strange resonance thing? How do you do it? It's like, oh, go resonate, go forth and resonate. And it's actually, there's a real unusual paradox of resonance, right? And it's one of these, like, if you try too hard, you will invariably fail, right? So there's like, okay, I got to go resonate with my client or with my friend or with, the person I'm trying to help. Like, let me listen. I'm going to really listen up. And if you try too hard, it's like you get tight and you fail. It's like, the tuning fork that wants to resonate and just like, okay, I'm going to do it really hard. And I'm going to even try and shake the way the other tuning fork is shaking. They try to do it. It just, no, it doesn't work like that. So resonance really requires a soft focus, right? So it's just like, okay, let me just become still and ground and allow my attention to be open, right? It's letting yourself receive information rather than trying to go out after it. Okay. Not trying to, okay, let me figure out how to resonate with you and interpret what's going on. It's more about, and I think this is a good image sometimes, like imagining yourself as a still pond, right? I'm a pond that's still, like a present, calm, open, where the water is relatively clear. And as the other person is with me, saying what they say, just allowing their presence to ripple into your being, right? So you want to let them just kind of ripple into your being. It's a calm, receptive, appreciative state. It's very present centered. It's just like, okay, right here, this is what I'm sensing and feeling, right? And as I'm with them, as I'm with you, this is what I'm noticing and feeling. Okay. So your body is an instrument. Your body is an instrument of resonance, and you want to kind of stay open and grounded, but open. So there's kind of not any glitches or tightening or striving, because that kind of diminishes the resonance of your inner chamber. Okay. And we use the metaphor of the tuning fork, right? What you're not doing is you're not chasing somebody to radio tag them. It's like, oh, I'm going to catch you and find you. Like, no. You're letting the game come to you. You're letting the sound of them almost be drunk into your own being. Okay. All right. So that's the attitude. That's the stance. There's this quote: you can't have harmony or resonance with someone who is out of tune with themselves. So the idea here is one of the first things you want to do is to come into your own stillness, your own inner attunement, right? You want to kind of become that calmness, right? So we're going to try this, kind of give you a little bit of an experience here, right now. So in our large group, in this space that we have, with us, we're going to, and I'll turn off the slides in a moment. And if you want, you can just be in our shared community space for a little bit. We'll just spend about 3 minutes just tracking yourself, noticing your own body. If you want, your eyes can be open. If you prefer, they can be closed. Just notice your own body and have that image of the still pond as you're here. And maybe you can clear out your own resonant chamber. And we'll just debrief together as a group and share about that experience. Is it easy to be still? Maybe you're able to find your still point, your resonant space, or maybe it's not easy. And then all of that, there's no good or bad, just information about kind of where you're at. Okay. So we're going to spend about 3 minutes in this mindful practice of listening inside. Let me just pull up a little bit of sound. And we'll resonate together, or resonate within yourself. So this is kind of clearing out your own inner being, right? So just taking a little moment to settle in, to track yourself, noticing your own body. Okay? What are you feeling? What are you sensing? Can you find your own stillness, openness, and ground? And we'll notice our own bodies and return in about 3 minutes. And slowly just go ahead and allow yourself, wherever you are, to gently bring yourself back into our shared space. Mm. Mm. So just go ahead and share if you want. We'll open up the chat again and either type just to share what that was like for you, um, or you can share verbally if you raise your hand also. Yeah, what was that like for you? Just noticing your own instrument and your body. Were you able to connect? Were you able to find your own kind of stillness and ground and resonance? What was that like? So internal opening. Yeah, Laura. Teresa, centering. Yeah, great. Great. So internal opening, the feeling of centering. There was a restfulness, a softness. Great. That's the right state of mind, calming and grounding. Great. So, yeah, beautiful, beautiful. So that's kind of the state of being that you want to be in order to allow your resonance. There was competition for the space, so different. That can totally happen sometimes. Like, I try and get quiet, and then other things want to come in, right? It's not necessarily like the stillness or the resonance. Yeah. Yeah. Great. Great noticing. Okay. So, yeah. So sometimes kind of getting yourself It's like letting the dust settle in the pond, right? Right. Pond experiencing intervals of stillness and different ripples. So you're already starting to hear the ripples or sense the ripples. You're on to the next thing. That's the next part of the exercise. So we'll kind of go into that. Yeah, great, Angela. Being present and grounded, peaceful, wonderful, great. Thanks, Howard. Peaceful, remembering a dream from which I woke feeling nourished. That's such a great feeling, right? I mean, there's a whole way in which dreams can resolve too, right? Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Daryl. Zoe, noticing anxiety rising. Thank you. Wonderful. So just noticing, okay, sometimes that's a note that lives inside me that just kind of plays, maybe a little bit baseline. It doesn't mean I can't resonate, but it means that there's a note that's kind of already present, kind of as I sit with somebody. And okay, so great. So great that you can notice that. Grace, I more keenly heard the external environment like a plane going overhead. Yeah, okay, so you're more tuned into the environment. Great, wonderful, Grace. Presence and clarity. Great, Meredith, wonderful. Connected, Helen, connected, found center, went into alpha wave. Yeah, there's that whole theta, alpha, beta. I forgot the last one, theta, alpha, beta. Delta, that's what it is. Right. Yeah. Thanks, Teresa. We got it at the same time. Okay. Yeah. Enjoyed feeling into the image of the pond. Right. Yeah. Theta, then delta. Yeah. Thanks for the collective wisdom. Enjoyed feeling into the image of the pond. Yeah. Helped to get quiet and notice sensations more keenly. Beautiful. Because a long pattern of traumas, getting silent is difficult. Absolutely. Good to notice that. So yeah, and that's sometimes when it's helpful to have somebody else who can be the still pond for you, right? Who can be something into which kind of the waves of you can land and can be contained or supported or held. Okay. So we're going to try something a little bit next. Okay. We're going to do the same thing, but this time, instead of having your attention purely inward, we're going to invite or allow you to take in other people in the space, right? And just like, it's like, okay, tuning into yourself and feeling that all of the things that you mentioned, that kind of presence, clarity, openness, stillness, right? And feeling that, and then letting yourself maybe peek out, and then just letting the ripple come into you and seeing what it's like. And you can experiment with different people, right? In this space, I'm on gallery view right now, so I can see different people. I can see different names or different pictures. You can just notice what each square ripples into you, and just taste it. Just what's the resonance with that? Okay. So it's the same process, starting from the same place of openness, the still pond. And once you find something that feels like, okay, at least that's my kind of baseline resonance or sound, whatever it might be. What happens when I add another person's instrument into the mix, right? Yeah. And if you want, you can kind of change to gallery view by clicking view, just as Kira mentioned, in the upper right-hand corner, and selecting gallery view if you want kind of to allow different faces to ripple into you. Okay. So we'll do this. It'll be a similar thing. Yeah. And if you want, kind of, you're invited to turn on your camera if you'd like to become a pebble that drops into somebody else's pond, and there's no obligation. But sometimes it's an interesting experience to be the pebble and to experience the rippling being rippled through. Okay. All right. So we'll do this for about 3 minutes, and kind of starting with the stillness and then kind of allowing people in and just letting that ripple in. Um, so 3 minutes. Just a quick question. So there probably wasn't, you didn't hear music last time we did the exercise, right? There was no music accompanying. Okay, perfect. We'll do this in just kind of tuning into yourself and kind of quiet, kind of stillness, and then coming out to allow the ripple. And we'll go for about 3 minutes, starting with just settling into yourself, tuning into your own body, your own instrument, your own ground, feeling whatever's present inside of you, maybe openness, presence, clarity. And then for the next 3 minutes in your own time, you'll go back and forth between your still pond, your open instrument of resonance, and just making a little contact and drinking in the sound or the melody of another person, okay? Whatever that might be. You can go back and forth between your own inner stillness and then opening out and just feeling that as if a pebble dropped in a pond. So go ahead and continue for about 3 minutes with this practice. Okay, so let's go ahead and let that come to uh, uh, pause there. Uh, and what was that like? What was it like to notice your own internal experience and then allow yourself to resonate with others? What did you notice? What did you experience? Did you get a sense of the flavor of different people, even just from their stillness? Could you let the pebble of their being kind of echo inside of you a little bit? And it might not even have words, it might just be this unnamed sense of something. What was that experience like? Yeah. Hmm. Curious. Yeah. Yeah. So that was a feeling inside you of curiosity. And yeah, so you're curious about people. Ooh, yeah, so you felt a lot of curiosity and interest in others. Wonderful. It's beautiful. Yeah. So I like knowing that. Yeah. Okay. You can also, yeah, you can raise your digital hand if you want to share. It's, I like knowing, Meredith, that you felt curious when I actually cheated a little. I pinned people's squares a little. But uh, yeah, when I hear you say curious, like, oh, that makes sense. I could, about the way you were kind of looking and remembering how you were looking. And Leah, oh, curious. You're also curious. Your eyes were closed for much of the time. Yeah, yeah, neat. Angela felt different emotional tones and sensation movements. Yeah, so you could, with different people, you could feel different things. Interesting. And also doubt crept in, questioning what I was sensing. Wow. Okay. It's okay to have doubt. That's fine too. It's fine too. I think there's this saying from Winnicott, and he says something like, two people enter a room and an emotional storm arises. And that's what it feels like for me. It's like um, when I'm inward, I can feel, when I look at people, it's almost like so much comes into me. It's like the heartbreaking beauty of people, you know. Yeah. So I definitely resonate with that Winnicott quote. Vulnerable, Daryl. Yeah. Vulnerable in the being seen, or vulnerable in the seeing. I think it can be like a shared thing. Like it can be very vulnerable to let somebody interpenetrate into our self, for sure. Like resonance is an act of vulnerability. Okay. Shared reality and belonging with people who want to attune to each other. Yeah, that's beautiful. It's nice to have that sharedness. Interesting and terrifying. Yes, I notice I'm more okay with letting people uh, in than the idea of being felt. That's a great observation. Yeah, right. Like for some of us who are in the classically empathic helping professions, right? Or like we're, or even like, yeah, empaths, right? We hold space for others, right? But letting others kind of feel us is can be terrifying. Yeah, anxiety being seen. Thank you. Yeah, kind of found yourself. Is that okay? Is that, am I saying it right? I apologize if I'm getting it out. Anxiety being seen, found yourself leaning back, breathing back. Oh, good. Thank you. Okay, cool. Yay. Breathing back into yourself to feel more deeply, feel ground and safety. Yeah, great to notice, right? To be seen is also kind of such a vulnerable thing. Yeah, found yourself trying to interpret and evaluate what you were feeling was coming from each person, right? Yeah. So almost just let yourself see with your body, right? Yeah, yeah. It's natural to try and interpret and evaluate. It's a challenging practice. Okay, right. thank you for letting us taste that together. And this is a practice which I think it takes a lifetime to ongoingly do. Okay. Um, so so that's part of a practice. I think that can be helpful. Um, so we did this one. This is allowing yourself to notice your attention with the interconnections in the space and resonate, noticing your own body. We just debriefed about that. Let's see. Okay. So sometimes we can start to sense another person's inner melody, like, right, there's somebody who's really focused, or there's somebody who's kind of curious, or there's somebody who's anxious, right? And sometimes there are folks whose inner melody gets distorted, okay? And sometimes that's through trauma, okay? And how do we help them get their groove back, find their rhythm again, and return into connection? So we're going to go over the standard model of trauma therapy. It'll be a quick run through the 3 boards of trauma treatment, and then the full octave relational model, okay, which uses this acronym TREATIES, which stands for time, relationship, expression, affect, thoughts, image, emotion, and sensation. These are all things that can get fractured off, notes that can get stuck, or people stop learning how to play, okay, instruments that they lose access to. Okay. So let's go over the notion of the window of tolerance and SIBAM, because that's kind of classic standard model stuff. Okay, see, that's my little smiley face saying I love you. All right. So the window of tolerance. So the notion of the window of tolerance comes from Dan Siegel. And he had this idea about what happens during trauma. Okay. So if this is your level of activation, like, okay, and so down here is like I'm completely calm or relaxed, and up here I'm getting kind of activated and stressed. Okay. His notion of trauma is, well, down here we're not particularly stressed or traumatized, but normally what we do as we go through our days, we get a little bit more activated and we become a little bit more calm. Okay, that's what naturally happens through the day. Here I am, I'm kind of calm, I'm just sipping my coffee. Oh, I'm getting ready to give a little talk, right, and share with you in this class. It's a little bit stressful, but you all seem really friendly. And Meredith's laughing at my little joke, and we're kind of getting more calm and coming back down. And job well done, class taught and completed. I can rest again, and we're all good. So that's what happens during our normal kind of walking through life. We move through what is called an arousal cycle. Okay, that's a term from somatic experiencing, arousal cycle. That's kind of the standard model. Okay. Now, in trauma, what happens is the level of activation goes up past what we call the window of tolerance, past a certain level where it's too much, too fast, too soon. Okay. Too much, too fast, too soon. Okay. It's like, okay, I wasn't ready for the talk and it's too stressful and I can't handle it. And it's, oh my God, I didn't expect it. It's like an hour before I thought it was, and I'm not ready and I can't deal with it. And I start to get dizzy. Maybe, I'm not, just pretending, but I get dizzy, or I get nauseous, or I start to forget where in extreme cases, right, go numb, even if it's really high stakes, like So, and it could be, I think this is a little bit of a fantastical example, but, you know, uh, just pretending it was super important or super high stakes, and my job was at, my livelihood was at stake, or, you know, somebody really needed me to do it right, or I need to be in two places at the same time. you know, um, I could start to dissociate, or I start to have like a little bit of trauma kind of associated with that. Okay. So, so that's the standard model of trauma. Trauma lives here. Okay. All right. So that's the standard model. And the standard model so that's what trauma is. And the standard model for how to heal trauma goes something like this. R stands for resources. R stands for resources. Resources. And we'll talk a little bit more about what those are like in a moment. But the standard model for trauma is, okay, what we do is we support the system with resources, help a person feel safe. Maybe we are the resource. Like might be a therapist, and I can spot you, I can be with you, I can help you remember that kind of you can feel the ground underneath you, or you can feel kind of me breathing with you, supporting you, kind of, there's all kinds of different things we could do to help support you or resource you. So it's like, okay, tell you you're actually safe, it's going to be okay, you're doing a good job. So that could be a way of supporting a person with a thought resource or a cognitive resource. Like, okay, affirmations can be a resource. And what that does is it basically raises the window of tolerance. Okay, it raises the window of tolerance. So that what was too much, too fast, too soon is now actually metabolizable, and the cycle, which was like unbearable before, the thing that was too much, too fast, too soon, becomes tolerable, and we can come back down and re-regulate back into calm. Okay. So that's the standard, what I'm calling the standard model, the standard model. And okay. And elaborations on this standard model are what I would call SIBAM, or the 5 core organizers. Okay. And these are two different ways of saying the same thing. This comes from somatic experiencing. Okay. The 5 core organizers come from sensory motor. Okay. Psychotherapy. They're both very valuable contributions to the field, but they, at least in my opinion, are using kind of the same set of 5 elements of consciousness. So here's the somatic experiencing sensory motor elaboration of the standard model. So the elaboration is, if you zoom in on this little dot, according to the standard model, what you'll find is a pentagon. Okay. Okay. That consists of, I'll say, the letters SIBAM, but it actually stands for sensation. Okay. Image. Okay. Behavior. Behavior. Affect. And meaning. Okay. So what does this all mean? So if you zoom in on this little dot here, it actually, it actually looks like a pentagon, according to this elaboration. So what this means is, as I go through my day and I have my experiences, the constituents of my experiences are things that I'm sensing, things that I am seeing, hearing, image, like seeing, like taking in through imagery, right? things that I'm feeling, that's what affect means, the feelings that I'm having, the things that I'm doing, the behavior that I'm doing, and the meaning that I'm making of it. So, for example, right now, sensation-wise, I am feeling my feet on the ground. I am feeling the pressure of my hand as it holds my little magic pen. I'm seeing Apostle kind of looking and waving at me, right? So I can see that image, right? As she waves, I can feel kind of happiness inside me. So that's my affect. Yeah, I feel even more happy. Okay. My behaviors, I'm waving back, right? And then I'm making meaning like, okay, so we're exchanging friendliness, kindness, right? So, and it all hangs together, right? I'm having all of these experiences kind of as I move through my cycles of the day, kind of up and down. Okay, we just had a little cycle. Hello, kind of sensation, image, affect, behavior, meaning. It all hung together, and it worked, and it kind of had its own resolution, and perfect. We said hello, wonderful. Okay, then we can come back down as the cycle completes. Now, in trauma, these 5 core organizers, sensation, affect, image, behavior, meaning, the SIBAM, starts to fragment apart. Okay. So it's like, okay, here I am. Maybe I'm teaching and it's really high stress. I can still feel my body. I can still sense myself. I can still see what's going on. I still can do what I'm doing and I can feel what I'm feeling, my affect, and I know what's going on. I have the meaning. But once it gets past a certain level, it starts to break apart. Okay. So sensation might break off. My body might go numb, right? I might start, meaning might break off. I might start forgetting where I am, right? I might start kind of becoming hyper focused on certain images, like, okay, and like all I'm seeing is the text message on my phone that says you're fired, or something. I keep kind of gravitating to the look on somebody's face that looks kind of scowly. I can't get that image out of my mind, right? And so that gets kind of like stuck, right? And I don't really see what anything else. It just gets stuck there. Okay. Behavior can also get fragmented off, like people who are traumatized sometimes, like I keep trying to like say the same thing over and over and over again, or I keep trying to click the button and it's not working. I keep clicking it. I keep clicking it. I keep trying to clean the doorknob or whatever it is, or to kind of wash my hands, whatever it might be. Okay. So there can become behaviors that become fragmented out, so there's so this coherent experience starts to become fragmented during trauma. Okay, it starts to break apart. Okay. So that is what happens during trauma. Now, now that we've talked about kind of the standard model, right, with the 5 core organizers in SIBAM, I want to introduce what I call the 3 boards, three boards of trauma treatment. Okay. And they're the surfboard, the keyboard, and that's where the musical metaphor comes in, and the boardroom. Okay. Okay. So the surfboard metaphor is basically, okay, this is like a wave. This up and down thing is like a wave, right? And experience tries to ride the wave as best it can. Some waves it can ride pretty well. It's like I'm on my surfboard. I stayed on my wave. I was able to be with my experience as I rode up and down the wave. I could sense myself. I could see what I could see with the images. I could feel what I felt. I could do what I'm doing with my behavior, and I knew what was happening all the time. I knew what the meaning was. My surfboard was intact. I could ride that wave up and down. Okay. When things get too intense, I get thrown off my surfboard. right? It's overwhelming, and I start to fragment off, right? My surfboard, I'm not on the surfboard anymore. I'm not with my full experience. It's too much, too fast, too soon. There's something that I couldn't sense that was too much, or feel the affect was too much. Kind of, I couldn't absorb the meaning, where I forgot the meaning. I got displaced from the meaning. Maybe I started to freeze in my behavior. I got numb. I couldn't move. I couldn't do anything, right? Maybe I couldn't see things, or images got stuck, lodged in myself, disconnected from everything else. Okay. So I get thrown off my surfboard. Okay. The next metaphor is the keyboard. All right. So the idea here is these things are like notes on a keyboard. Okay. Sensation, affect, behavior, and meaning. Like, you can think of it as this particular version is a 5-note keyboard, a pentatonic scale, right? So for some people, if you meet them and they're highly traumatized, you might notice that they have no affect, right? That key on their keyboard is muted, right? They are no longer able to feel feelings. Or sometimes they only feel certain feelings, like they only feel anger all the time. That's the note. That's the one note that they have. It's like they're stuck. That key on their keyboard gets stuck in the on position or the off position, right? You might have somebody who has chronic pain. That might be a version of a key on their keyboard getting stuck, right? Where it's like, oh, that note keeps getting played and I don't know how to move it or get it to shift, right? People who have visual flashbacks, right? Images keep returning to them again and again and again, and they don't understand it. They don't know what it means, but it just keeps haunting them, right? That key on their keyboard has gotten stuck, right? That note is being played over and over and over again inside their head. There are people who are always maybe kind of unable to take action. They procrastinate all the time, or there's a certain like freeze that they go into when they're talking to authority. They can't move, or they can't say no, right? Or they can't protect themselves, right? Sometimes when they're traumatized, that ability to take a certain action or behave in a certain way gets stuck. That note on their keyboard is not available to them. Sometimes, when somebody's traumatized, they're not able to access certain meanings in the world, right? They don't know what's going on in their trauma state. Sometimes they have chronic beliefs, just like there can be chronic pain, physical pain. There can be chronic cognitive beliefs, like I'm not worthy of love, or that can be the note that always gets played. All right. And other notes they're not able to play. Right. So part of helping a person move through trauma is helping them to play all the keys on their keyboard, right? Learning to play all the keys on their keyboard. Right. And how do we do that? Okay. So the way to do that is what we call the boardroom. And that's the idea, is that, okay, your being is made up of a lot of different parts, right? And if you were just to even imagine these fragments as, I'm just going to draw a little head and little legs on each of these, like a little head and a little legs, as if it were its own person with its own internal wisdom or voice in a boardroom, that if you got them together with enough safety, they might actually talk to each other. Like, okay, here's an image that I have. Okay? I don't understand it. It's an image of glass shattering. and I don't get it, but it's there. Oh, okay. Thank you for speaking, kind of image of glass shattering. With enough resource support, frequently, it's like, oh, you have that image. I had this weird sensation of like tightness in my stomach, but like as you describe that image, I'm noticing my stomach start to get maybe even more intense, and now I'm noticing I'm starting to shake in my body. That behavior, which I don't quite understand is happening, but it's starting to happen. Like there's a glass shattering. I'm feeling tight in my belly. My behavior is I'm starting to shake. All of a sudden, I start to cry. The affect comes back. And then all of a sudden, the meaning re-arrives. It's like, oh, I was in that accident, that car accident, and I couldn't get out, and I was terrified and scared. And it all starts to come back together in the boardroom. Like people are listening to each other, and it becomes a coherent experience again. It rebinds, and we're able to come back down. Okay. So that's the notion of healing trauma. Okay. Now, okay, so we've talked a lot about all of that. So here's the punchline, I guess, to the whole shebang, is that um, the standard model, like of trauma therapy, I think should be expanded. That's my sense of things. Okay, lots of people use this, and I think it's valuable, and you can get a lot of mileage out of that. But I think there's a couple of things that we might be missing. Typically, I basically took the SIBAM model and added three new things that can fragment out, in my opinion. So it is true that sensation, and this is basically affect, emotion is affect. I just image is the same, thoughts is basically meaning. This should be action. Sorry, action. That should be sorry. So action, time, relationship, expression, action, which is also behavior. So basically, this is SIBAM plus 3. Okay. So let's just take a look here at this. Okay. What does all that mean? Okay. So a full octave experience. So not only do I have, as I'm going through the day, like sensations, emotions, images, thoughts, action that I have, okay, I'm frequently noticing when I am, okay, like maybe I'm in the present moment, or maybe not. Like I'm here in the present, where I'm thinking about the future, or I'm thinking about the past. I'm frequently in relationship with something. Okay, I'm in connection with something, and I have the option of expressing myself in some way. Those are all parts of my experience. Okay, so let me show you how this kind of works out. Because in trauma, sensation can block off. Like I can go numb. Emotions can go block off. I don't want to feel certain things. I can get stuck with certain images. I can get stuck in certain thoughts. I can go numb with certain actions. That note might be no longer available to me. I can lose my ability to express myself. There's an area of the brain called Broca's area that goes offline during trauma, which is our expressive capacity. So that note stops being able to be played. Our ability to verbally express ourselves becomes an unplayable note during trauma. And the ability to rediscover that is vital in trauma therapy. During trauma, sometimes I'm no longer able to relate to others. People go kind of very inward and become agoraphobic, or socially isolated, or socially anxious, loners. They are not able to play the relationship note anymore. That becomes fractured off. Sometimes there's things like flashbacks, where I keep revisiting a certain moment in time. That's a way in which a fragment of time keeps being played, like that's gotten fractured off. Or sometimes there's things I just amnesia, right? Like traumagenic amnesia. It's like, okay, I cannot go back in time to that moment. It's like that time moment became unplayable. That note stopped to be able to be played. Okay, so that's kind of the full octave version. We'll just take a look real quick. It spells the word treaties. There's a little kind of, it's an acronym, and we make treaties with trauma to try and get by. And we'll just real quick, I know we're almost at time. So with a visual flashback, okay, you have time, because there's a fragment of time, images, and probably emotion that got split off, okay, that keeps haunting me, okay, this thing from the past that's a flashback that's filled with imagery and emotions keeps coming back to me. And so what do I need to do? I need to kind of pretend that it's a person in some way, or kind of pretend it's pretend it has something to tell me, like it's trying to communicate something to me, and then help me rediscover how it's connected with meaning or relationship or expression. What did I need to say then when I couldn't say? Okay, what action did I need to take then that I couldn't take? What thoughts do I need to have now? Or what meaning can I understand it to be? Who can I actually find myself in connection to? What can I actually feel back into my body? All right. So that's a, for example. Panic attacks, similar. That's typically an emotion sensation fragment, right? I'm flooded with a huge panic attack emotion. What I don't need more sensation at that point in time. What I need is like, okay, right now I need to remember I'm back in the present. I'm safe. Okay, so I need to come back in time, right? Or I need to have images of safety, or or maybe it's like, okay, I remember being unable to say no, and learning to say no and take action or express or ask for help, all those things. So similar. So that's at least the beginnings of this understanding of working with things. I guess the last thing I'll share, I don't want to overwhelm folks, because I think we're at time, right? This is a 90. Okay, perfect. Okay. So what I'll share is I guess this last little quote. Okay. So and this is, oopsie. Whoa. Let me see. I think you can see that. Okay. So this is one thing I hope you've gotten from this is the metaphor of music, right? And us as instruments that can get a little bit off tune or out of tune, or notes that stop being able to be played. And this is really an ode to resonance and the connection that we can feel if we listen to the musicality that we are all potentially able to tune into. So this is from A.W. Tozer's The Pursuit of God, right? So has it ever occurred to you that 100 pianos, all tuned to the same fork, are automatically tuned to each other? They are of one accord being tuned not to each other, but to another standard to which each one must individually bow. The Pursuit of God. I think there's something deeply spiritual about listening to the music of things, right? And I think there can be something very sacred and even reverentially present whenever there are two people and you're listening to the music, one with the other. So I encourage you to go forth and listen to the music that's within you, and the music that's within others, If you want to stay in touch, please don't hesitate to reach out. It's very lovely to be here spending time with you.